government of France patented two colors in 1836, and that influenced quite a bit of the painters, the Impressionist painters, and the lead painter, Claude Monet, where I learned a lot watching his work, reading about him. It's amazing brightness of colors that there's a reason he uses complementary colors to turn on one color to the other. Balance and harmony, the texture versus very smooth, and extreme dark behind his focal point areas. You can see that in his palette there's quite a bit of white being used. He creates texture alla prima on top of the greens that he put on, and then he puts the complementary color behind it to make it pop. I have used the madder, which is rose madder, genuine, which is for sale on Amazon, genuine rose madder. And you can see I have many canvases to choose from, and he would have chosen this color, which is a pale yellow. Some people call it butter yellow. We just go forward and look at the colors that he uses, or they have a very similar value to the background color. I will show you the balance between a very warm color of alizarin crimson on the right. It requires this much of cloud or sky to balance it. As the color of alizarin crimson increases in size and texture, you need more to balance the incredibly beautiful alizarin crimson. Now, it's documented that from 1860 onward, he didn't use black. He started using ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson to make a dark crimson to mix together. And this is an old painting of a younger man. And you can see the black paint is actually looks like a black hole in the canvas. Black, it absorbs all the light, and it looks like a hole, like a window with a white window in the back. The minute I make it more of dots of light, it looks like the sun, like the dress of his wife. The sun is creating light coming from the trees. Take a look at this green. It's really not very cool. As soon as I use ultramarine and add to it just a little bit, it cools it enough to make sure the squares pop. We use phthalo green over whatever color we had, that muddy color. On the shadows of these squares, it makes the squares really pop. The one that really pops is the orange, which is complementary color of the blue underneath. You can see it's far off the floor, about a couple of inches. The black on the right, it really does look like a hole on top of a very cool purple color that he uses a lot. I will show two colors now that I do all my trees, the oxide of chromium and phthalo green, yellow. All you need is these two colors to do all your bushes and trees, and then if you want a little bit more highlight, you can add a little bit of white to the yellow part, which I will use a special, the older the better, of a fan brush. You can see that the tree has a lot of texture. That's what we need. In the sense of cloud that I'm doing, it's on a dried rose madder background, just cobalt blue on top of the sky, and of course alizarin crimson in the center, which will mix with all the grays that I have. You will notice that the problem that I'm having is these tree bumps of bubbles. I need to get rid of most of it to create a balance between the background, which is called negative space, and the positive space that is all the way from the tree to the top of the cloud. All attached together will be the positive. Now, this is exactly the style that he used, and you can see the two colors that really pop is the yellow inside the greenish color of the tree versus its complementary color purplish violet in the back. There is a space of 3 inches. If you feel it, you're already there. You have learned the first lesson. The two complementary colors create a space on the canvas without any perspective. Just the color itself is jumping forward. Now, I learned that from watching his first major painting that got into the salon and got him famous, is the use of alizarin crimson against the light green. Those two are actually complementary. If you mix them together, you get a nice gray, neutral gray it's called. All right, now you can see the beautiful cobalt blue. It's not complete because it does not make the cloud jump forward. What I need is a lighter color, more of a greenish color, which is called cerulean blue. I will use that to make the cloud pop. As you can see, Monet uses the ultramarine on top and cerulean blue on the bottom and mixes it together with a little bit of in between some white clouds. Now, all I have to do now is create the whites. There's enough paint around to mix it and go over and scumble. This technique is specifically belongs to Claude Monet. The scumble is a opaque color that goes over the yellow with alizarin crimson, of course, in his portrait, a scumble. This word is very important to learn. That is his style. What the white is a opaque color. On the back, on the ground, is a yellowish orangish color. As the scumble goes over that, it shows a little bit of the orange and it covers it as an opaque paint. Opaque meaning it's not transparent. Now you notice that slowly I will bring in an ultramarine blue, the French ultramarine, and mix it with existing alizarin crimson in the middle to create that look of a madder, the rose madder that you all love. Of course, you can buy that, but you have to buy it as genuine on Amazon. They have a $10 one, but it's not the same. The madder that you want is called genuine rose madder on Amazon. It's $34. Now, you notice that I am continuing in alla prima, wet in wet technique right now. That means mixing all the colors with the white, that all the paint is there. All I have to do is just have a tool, like a brush, and just mix them all together. You see how complicated it is? All kind of colors are there. Now that is the scumble. You can see right through the paint. Some paints are transparent, some are opaque. Like white is definitely opaque. This is titanium white. It covers over everything. But then I leave other areas as is. This is typically Claude Monet style. Now the tree, I highlight the bottom of it so the tree pops forward a little bit. The dark against white is the contrast that we covered. In order to create depth, the upper part now has to be darker and the bottom has to be lighter. Now, I wasn't going to tell you this, but I might as well give away my secret. They appreciate physical texture as an artist's fingerprint and originality. The significance of light, which is under the trees, is born from the presence of shadows. So if you don't have shadows, you really don't have light. Because if you have light, it definitely produces shadows everywhere. Now watch while I take a risk with this diagonal out of nowhere, because I noticed the other tree was bent over. So in order to balance, part of the teachings of Monet was harmony. To harmonize this painting, I needed something going to the left. Once that comes in, nobody's bothered by the left tree being bent over. Under both trees, I create light with a yellow, orange, and white titanium. It's very subtle, and no one can see it or know about it. Only I know what I've done. You can see that where I'm putting it is exactly right next to the bottom part of the tree branches or the trunk. So therefore it makes it pop. Without a direct shadow, I've already created something interesting. A composition that has never existed since I did this from a memory. It took 5 hours to do the entire painting. I hope you enjoy it, and watch the video of the original trees that I painted at the end of this video, so it brings you back to where we started.